I'm going to say some things that maybe might offend a few people.
So I am going to challenge your comment.
It's time to redefine what a good salesperson actually looks like, right?
Joining me are three absolute powerhouses, three senior IT leaders, Pat Devlin, Renee De Laine, Astrid Groves.
I absolutely hate this idea that I hear from sales managers a lot, which is we only want A players.
Like you can't be that kind of seller anymore.
We've lost the art of being able to communicate, the art of putting the customer first.
If I go across 5 of your competitors' websites and we all look, feel, sound the same, it's not that hard to stand out. What do you sort of think people should be focusing on?
I think a lot of people forget why they've got a partner community in the first place.
You have to stop going for the AI easy wins, right?
That focus for 2026 has to be...
Welcome to the REV UP Rebellion podcast. Today's episode is an IT and technology industry leadership war room takeover. If you're a revenue leader in the IT industry and you really just want to pressure test your 2026 plans, or maybe you're outside the industry and you want a fresh perspective and a peek behind the curtain on how another sector is gearing up for 2026 and cross-pollinate your ideas, then you are in the right place. Joining me are three absolute powerhouses, three senior IT leaders who bring some serious commercial clout. We've got Pat Devlin, founder and managing director at ITAS and former senior director at HPE and Aruba. We've got Renee De Laine, who has been a senior technology leader across sales, advisory, alliances, working for the likes of Dell, IBM, and KPMG. And finally, we have the incredible Astrid Groves, General Manager of Channels and Alliances and Operations at APC by Schneider Electric, as well as being the chairperson of the Sustainability Tech Coalition. These leaders are deep in the trenches with their fingers on the pulse, and in this conversation, trust me, they do not hold back at all about where they think we need to be focusing for 2026, the blind spots we might be missing, and the opportunities that we're seeing right now in market. So we always kick off with the same question, which is what is either an idea that you want to rebel against, or perhaps it's just a conversation that you feel like right now, this time of year, it needs to be elevated for revenue leaders and just something that really needs to be on the table a little bit more. Pat, I'll kick off with you. Any thoughts from you? Something you want to put on the table?
So much. So there's a couple of things that I want to really rebel hard against. And I'm going to say some things that maybe might offend a few people, but I guess you can edit them out in post if you like. So firstly, it's this, I've worked in a lot of big companies, a lot of small companies. I'm really lucky in that sense, right? Done a bunch of startups, worked for big ugly ones, worked for tiny little ones. And I absolutely hate this idea that I hear from sales managers a lot, which is we only want A players. I only want to hire A players, right? I don't want the best of the best. None of these C players and B players. So firstly, I absolutely despise this idea that we just label people. Well, what are we like, supermarket produce, you're like A category or B? Or what the hell is that? Like what is an A player anyway? I find it kind of offensive. But then let's say we agree that I only want the best of the best, right? So I only want to hire the best. I only want the best. To a degree, I kind of think at a sales leadership level, what's that saying is I don't want to do anything. Like if you're all great, I don't have to do anything. You just go out and you're the best sellers ever. And I kind of sit back and go, give me a better forecast. Great. Yeah. How's your commit? It's awesome. We're all good. It kind of it takes away from the fact that I've got a job to do. And I think the job isn't managing a team of high performers. It's creating a team of high performers. And it's this idea that they're not just out there in the world being A players. I have a job, a responsibility to grow and create that team. And I see it so much. And I tell you what, I reckon it's largely from sales leaders who've never done the job themselves or who lack the confidence to go do it. And so if I'm scared about going on and doing the call and showing you how it works and what to do, then I don't want to have to do that. So I just want you to be awesome at it to begin with. I also think, flip side of this conversation, is I think I apologize if you're in HR and you're awesome, but I don't think I've ever met a team with a strong HR. It's like where careers go to die. And it's where's the responsibility of HR to fix this? It's like, let's find some good HR people who maybe can help firstly look for good leaders, but also look for good potential in salespeople. So that's my rebellion idea.
I'm aligned with you on that, because I actually think sales is not like a single person sport anymore. It is a team sport. And if you're going to show real value to your customers in this day and age, then it's not just a salesperson. It's you, it's your solution consultant or technical person, it's your back end office, like coming to the front and kind of sharing how they're going to support the customer and what that looks like. Like you can't sell alone. So that whole like A player to me is always like the lone wolf, like the person that was out there and everyone hates them, but they like, you know, made the sales target. So you just like kind of forgave them for it. I think it's unacceptable these days to just kind of have that person in your organization because A, your customers don't really want them long term. It's a very short kind of, you'll get the first sale, but you might not get the second one. But I also think that, you know, at the end of the day, they kill the team culture, always.
I think you just nailed a point that I'd like to align on, which is, you know, when you talk about an A-type personality, what you're really talking about, in my observation, is that those leaders are hiring like personalities. And that in itself breeds a type of culture, and that doesn't necessarily mean the right culture. And when you get success, you've actually got diversity of thought at the table. You bring a whole group of people to really problem solve a customer outcome. And that's what, you know, leadership and hiring and having a high-performing team is. So I think the language needs to change. And that high-performing team might involve, 3 or 4, 5, 10 different types of personalities. And that becomes an A team. So, you know, at the end of the day, is the ultimate seller and the A player a lone wolf? And does that make success for a team and where corporations are going coming into 2026? And I think we're seeing a lot of change and unsettlement, you know, especially in the technology industry and out at our vendors and our channel. And if you went under the root cause, I actually think you've just both, really articulated part of the problem.
It's time to redefine what a good salesperson actually looks like, right? Like it doesn't look like the person that hits a target by themselves anymore.
There's an awesome Simon Sinek video, which I think relates to some Navy SEAL story. Have you seen this one, which is a graph? It's like, here's how the SEAL Team 6, I think it is, here's how they select the performers. And it's like this matrix of capability and trust. And he's like, up top left, you've got high capability, low trust. And that's the A player, the horrible lone wolf A player you're describing. It's like they do well, but they burn everyone along the way. And obviously, I think most of
the poor pre-sales guys that are out the back going, like, why did you promise this?
Well, I feel like most people have seen it, but the idea is not new. Like I think Jack Welch wrote about it in his book, basically saying when you're doing cultural alignment, the high performer, low cultural fit is the absolute first person you've got to get rid of. Yeah. Because the danger is that they're engaging your customers, they're growing your business, but they're growing it in a way that's bad. So they're dragging the whole company behind them to a place you don't want to go. So you'd almost rather, this is my point of developing, you get what you get if you get the high performer who's high performing in a cocoon. You grow them, you get this cultural fit, and you've got something amazing that people can watch. They see how you develop people. They also see how you manage someone who's not doing so well. And I reckon there's this whole performance management piece that nobody talks about either. How many people have been in a company where they have a performance improvement process? They call it a PIP. You ever see someone get pipped and go, I think this is a great opportunity to get better? It's like, oh my God, I'm 30 days away from getting sacked. How many people genuinely use the process to improve performance? And if I know that it's just a gateway to get sacked, and I know you're my manager and you pip me, firstly, I hate your guts for it. But secondly, I'm not going to invest in the process. If you build a culture that says, we genuinely want you to succeed, everybody sees it. And I think that's the thing that people don't get is they don't always just look to the high performers to see how you're doing stuff. It's the low. How do you treat your worst staff member? Because that's a really big indication of how you're going to treat everybody.
But also then you take that other thread is that, you know, you do want a team of good, solid performers. And they actually keep, I'm going to call the foundation of the team healthy. And also when they start to, you know, be invested in and develop, that's where I see your high performers actually come from. But also coming back to what you said about those poor performers, I've got an example of exactly that. Poor performer, then looked at, I'm going to use the word, it has to be a certain type of personality in that poor performer themselves. So I am going to challenge your comment. It does take a personality to be courageous enough, let go of their ego, to step in and say, I want to be in this company. For personal reasons or whatever reasons, I'm at the bottom and I'm going on a performance plan, but I will take the guidance and improve. So, you know, you are dealing with personalities of sales and some egos don't like that and will go. and others will bed down and actually improve and actually turn out to be, in the case that I was privy to, one of the top performers and drove the biggest piece of business for that particular second half. And it was absolutely applauded and acknowledged that that individual invested in themselves and succeeded.
That's so awesome, right? But you had to commit to the process. If it was just a formality before you sacked him, that never would happen, right?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
I just don't think it should be a process at the end. Like, it's the everyday job. Just turn up and manage performance every day. Coach your people. Tell them how to do it. Teach them how to do it. That's literally your job.
So are we sort of saying that the sort of couple things we're taking out of this is actually we're redefining what an A player is. An A player is not a lone wolf. They're a team player. We're talking more about getting hands-on, coaching the team and sort of really getting stuck into the trenches. But the challenge I do see, and I work with a lot of businesses, and as a small business myself, the challenge I do see is you only have a certain runway. It's like, actually, if you take on, like, I would love to take on loads of people that I can invest in, I can develop, and so on. But you also have a number above your head, and you have a certain amount of time in a lot of businesses and a lot of instances of going, actually, I need someone to start delivering. So I think there's also a balance there to bringing on people as emerging talent that you train and investing, but then also the balance of like...
Yeah, but I'm not saying you should go hunt for the losers and then try to build them up.
Can I build a team of losers,
you want
please?
the best.
Yeah.
And if they're not doing so well, you want to work with it. Well, if I don't forget time for a really short story, but basically we had a guy on our team a few companies ago. Let's say, I won't say where because then it's obvious where it is, right? But he was really well loved. There's such a cool personality, but terrible at his job. And so there's this other concept that, everyone rises to the lowest level that you accept.
Yeah.
So if we accept that, it kind of drags everyone else down. And it was a real dilemma because he was such a fun guy, right?
Yeah.
So we pulled him in, we told him we're going to put him on a plan. And I have this thing, which is exactly what I just said, but I'll tell you, I promise you this is not a foregone conclusion. I want you to nail it. And I'm going to be with you every step of the way. I'm going to coach you every way I can. And so this guy, he knuckled down and he wrote it, the first week he wrote an amazing plan and he really started to nail it. And I was so pleased. And then because of the culture we'd built, this little posse of the sales team basically hunted me down one afternoon and they're like, how dare you nail our guy? We love our guy. We heard you're a performance managing him. And I said to them, hey, this is a process. I really want him to win. And the best thing you can do is let's not give it a secret. You all know he's told you. Yeah. Get on board with him, coach him. And they're like, you know what? We will. We're going to prove to you what a legend, this guy can be. And he's going to be amazing. So week 2, they all got together. They did a planning session with him and it was even better than week 1. And I'm like, man, this is going to be a story I wrote about how legendary manager I am. I've turned this guy around. Anyway, week 3, they're all hyped up, ready to do his next coaching session, and he just doesn't show up. And they're calling him going, man, what's going on? We're so excited. We've made such good progress. He's like, I can't be bothered. Yeah. And this is the guy who we're performance managing. And this is the reason he'd go for these spurts of energy and then just not be able to deliver. And he just kind of ran out of steam. He wasn't really engaged, wasn't interested. They pushed hard again in week 4. And then in the end, that same posse came to me and said, you know what? We love him, but I think you should let him go.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously I don't engage in that private conversation, but what I loved about it is the culture tried to help. The culture saw what was going on, and nobody at the point, he actually ended up saying, I'm going to self-select out, which is it sounds horrible. It's my favorite thing because then I give you a hug. I say, hey, I like you. I like what you can do. Yeah. It's just you can't do it here. And I want to help you do the next thing.
I think, the unspoken element here is there's a lot of mediocre performers in great companies that are still there, not necessarily being managed out because whether the leader is time poor, doesn't have the time. And you talked about the group keeping them elevated.
Yeah.
And I do think that's got to be part of going into 2026 to really look at a high-performing team, if that's what you want to call it, or a cohesive team, is, who is actually showing up and therefore who's the weakest links? And am I investing in and really looking at the key skills of all my team and making them better? And I do think that's what leaders need to do is how do we leave that legacy of having the best performance coming out of our individuals with their unique qualities. And that takes time. And you just said before, in a time, poor environment we are all in, that's the difficulty.
It's crazy hard. But then the other idea that I really hold dear, and it doesn't always work, especially when you're in a small company, is that everyone has value. And can I get that value out of you? we used to say over and over again, which is a terrible way of putting it. I can't think of a better way, but we'd say we don't discard people. You're here because you did something well. And if I've put you in a role and you can't do that well, part of it's on me, right? I got to figure out what you're good at. We sometimes would flip people from sales to channel to marketing or something, and they'd bomb at their new role. And how horrible would it be if you're a legendary marketer, I make you a salesperson and you suck at sales, and then there's no other path for you. I'm sorry, I filled your marketing job. But whose fault was that? That's me. I put you there, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean it always works out. There's not, there's not always a fairy tale at the end. But I kind of feel like we owe it to people. And I reckon we've kind of, I don't know, it's as the years have gone by, I see less and less empathy from leaders. And it's back to that comment. Like they're like, oh, I don't want 8 players. I don't care. I don't want to have to deal with you. Don't stop whinging. Have you ever heard this thing? There's no crying in sales. I've heard that a lot.
There's no crying in sales.
Yeah, there's no crying in sales.
Gotta cry.
There's lots of crying in sales. Are you kidding me? Yeah. You ever watch a Stanley Cup final? They all cry when they lose.
Yeah.
These are elite athletes, man.
There's a lot of crying in sales.
You should care.
Yeah. If you care, there's emotions, right?
Yeah. But I don't know. It's it's super hard, and I 100% agree. People don't want to have the hard conversation, and so they often carry these players. But it's when have you in your career, I mean, I think we've all sold at some point, right? When have you in your career had someone genuinely sit down with you and talk about low performance and what you could do before it became a sackable issue?
Yeah.
It's like, don't you owe it to them to nudge them in the right direction early? And that's a hard conversation to have, but we're not having it. And so what ends up happening is this person we all know sucks. We've got to get rid of them, but we can't do it because we've just let it go so long.
Yeah.
Astrid, what conversation do you want to put on the table? So we've got that on the table. No, and we're circling back to it. We're putting them all on the table and then we're going to consolidate them all together. What conversation is it for you that you feel you want to rebel against, or you just feel needs elevating for 2026?
I'm starting to see a lot of leaders really leaning into like AI tools, and like it makes my stomach turn sometimes. It really does. Because like right now I see a lot of these I watch my emails and I'm like, it's like this like war of emails that are like perfectly written. Hopefully you took the Z's out so we don't know that it's Copilot, but we all know it's Copilot or ChatGPT or whatever it is that you're using. But it's just like, it's like leaders are trying to outsource the leadership, and you can outsource your emails. You can outsource your pipeline. You can probably fake a forecast, but you can't build an algorithm that knows how to get trust with a customer. You can't outsource value. You can't, like, there's no algorithm coming for connection and human connection. And I think there's this like epidemic that I'm seeing of lazy salespeople and emotionally inept salespeople that is just going to be the death of their career, because it's not like Copilot's helping you go faster towards your goal. Copilot is helping you go faster towards being irrelevant to your team if you're using it to like lobotomize your brain and replace yourself. Like, that's on you. If you use it as a weapon, if you augment yourself with it, if you kind of do your own thinking, help it to, help you articulate it, or like whatever that is, then AI is like an amazing weapon that you can have in your arsenal, right? But if all you're doing is like, somebody asked for this question, give me a reply, like, it's like, what are we paying you for? I can get an algorithm to write the algorithm. Like, it's, don't make yourself redundant, people.
And that's an interesting one, because I think last year there was a 70% increase in rise for demand for relationship-based skills and development of relationship-based skills in sales forces, because it's almost like we're going back full circle to go, hang on, we've got a bunch of sellers who actually may have started their career during COVID, where we're all virtual and, we're not in person for the obvious reasons. Now all of a sudden it's like, right, we've got to get out, go see people in the real world. And actually some of those skills that almost like old schools become new school, and it's becoming full circle. Yeah.
Which is where, I mean, one of the things that I thought about was exactly that. If you take AI out of that, though, and go emails, you mentioned emails, the SMSs, dare I say some of the tools, I won't name them because there's companies out there that make a living from it, but the tools that you use to interact with your colleagues. How many of us have experienced your colleagues sitting on the same floor, sending you an email or an instant message where you could have physically gotten up and walked across and had a conversation with them, eyeballed, and your extensive dialogue that you'll have with that individual and problem solve, maybe take a little bit longer, will be far more customer impactful. And that's where I feel is that we've lost the art of being able to communicate, face to face, And therefore, how are we showing up in front of our customers?
I don't know if I don't even know if the email is actually faster. Like, it's faster to reply, but it's not faster to the outcome, right? It's like,
it's less
like
awkward
I propose something, I
interaction.
disagree. I hear that you disagree. I disagree that you disagree. Like, we're just going to say that in this like professional kind of way.
Do you reckon that's an age thing? My daughter texts me from the other end of the couch saying, "What are we having for dinner?" I'm like, "I'm right here." Open your mouth.
It's definitely an age thing, and I think that's what we're really looking at. But where are our customers? So it is an age thing. You're absolutely right. But look at the age of the C-suite.
Yeah.
You know, unless you're talking about a startup where you do have, you know, the young 23, 24-year-old, are large software companies selling to that, you know, size? Yes, no. But the dialogue having at a C-suite, you still need the gravitas and the ability to be able to have that face-to-face communication.
Yeah, I text you my reply on that.
Sorry, yeah, it's my bugbear. It is my absolute bugbear.
I'm sitting here quiet because my husband and I can be in the same house and we'll be texting each other of like, shut up.
Yeah, well, don't get me wrong.
I'm on a call.
I'm the biggest use of that on a personal front, but I actually think this is, where is the blur coming from a business perspective? But I think what you said before, you know, it's the dialogue. You could actually cut to the chase and say, Pat, disagree, what do you think? And then we start spitballing the idea or resolving its conflict and get to the resolution far more quickly than me spending, you know, sitting at my desk.
I mean, I'm a pretty simple person, right? Like, leadership to me is about whatever kind of like revenue leadership or any kind of leadership. You build a vision with your team, hopefully, of like what you want to achieve, and then you go together to go and execute that. If you're using AI to build the vision, there's no originality, there's no authenticity, no one's going to tie to it. Like, what are you doing? It's just laziness.
See, I'm curious about that, and I do want to circle back to that. I kind of want to almost park and hold that, because I know that you also actually are quite a user of AI. So I
am, but not to replace my brain.
Yeah. So I am curious about that, and I definitely want to delve into AI. So I'm going to put that one in a car park because I'm pinning it because I want to come back to that because I know you use it. And for example, I found some good ways to use it, some bad ways. So I want to debate that one. But first, I want to get Renee what you're going to rebel against on the table, and then we're definitely circling back to AI.
There's a thread that goes back, which is why, I mean, we're all in sales, but I want to rebel against that. Okay, we're all heading into a brand new year, so we're all going to set time aside and we're going to do strategy and planning. And then we're also going to talk about our go-to-market plans, and we're also going to talk about our innovation and ideas. And we'll do that, and we'll have that all documented, and it will go global, or depending on the size of the company, you'll go to your CEO and be reviewed. Then there comes a time in the quarter or the year shelf, because we're all too busy, the pipeline's not there, you should be out in front of your customers. So why I'm not rebelling against the fact that you shouldn't have one, absolutely, but it should be consistent, should be engaged. You should throw it into AI and test it. It's got to be consistent, because I think when we talk about the types of skills we've got in our sellers, the ability for them to contribute far more in innovative ideas, it's part of their personal development. We're losing the art of that because we're, you know, putting them straight into a sales machine and spitting them out. And I think that's why everyone's starting to feel tighter. Why? There's workforce reductions right across the board. We're being told you're going to do less with less. Well, no, everyone is doing more with less. And therefore, the ability to execute holistically and check on your strategy, I think, is critical, because we've actually lost the art of putting the customer first. So I want to challenge and rebel against the idea is that strategy is sitting down hand in glove with our customer and then back-ending it into our organisations to show up and execute on an outcome. I think that's happening, but not consistently, not smoothly, and it's ad hoc.
And it's interesting because some of the teams I work with, they'll sort of say, oh, you know, leadership, they get this idea. Yeah, it's all good. It'll die off in 2-3 weeks. Right. And when the leaders leave the room, I genuinely get conversations with the team almost being like, yeah, we'll just like humor them for a couple of weeks and then they'll give up on this crap and we'll move on to something else. So I think there's a lack of sometimes, yep, we're all on this bus and we're going there and we're going to execute on that plan. I'm also intrigued by your point there. You said customer first. And this is kind of one, I'm throwing my own rebel on the table here. I'm jumping in because I'm feeling left out. But I think that it's interesting, we do a lot of value props working with companies and everyone goes, we're customer first. And then I'm going to have to go to Pat because he's dying on the inside. I can see it. But like you then go, what? And it's not me being awkward, but it's me going like, what do you mean? Because if I go across 5 of your competitors' websites and everyone says customer first, then we're all the same. We all look, feel, sound the same. So I'm finding it's not that we're not customer first, but we have to go beyond it to then go, what does that actually mean? And I think the best example I've ever heard of this was someone was saying about Pagatonia, the clothing brand. If you go and shop there like the week before a sale, they'll say, don't buy it now, Pat, because it's actually going on sale next week. And it's like, that is customer first. Yeah. That's an interesting one. So I'm also curious about that because we can't say, to your point, customer first, and it just be sort of the buzzword. Correct. Pat's dying. Yeah. Go, Pat.
I 100% agree. But and that's kind of part of the problem. We're chasing a big revenue target. I mean, it's the difference. One of the things I love about running my own company now is we get to do what we want. I'm not chasing someone else's thing. I was in Melbourne a couple of weeks ago. We visited this client. It's amazing business. They were $100 million 5 years ago. They're down to 40. And they deal with I don't want to talk too much about them because you'll be able to tell who they are, but they deal with helping skilled labor from India or, and outside of the US and the UK, helping them find work inside those markets. And I don't know if you've noticed what's going on in the world right now, but it's a lot of anti-immigration, right? Yeah. So the point of all that is they were 100 million when immigration was big. They're 40 million now that's slowed. They have a healthy business. They're obviously not thrilled that they've gone to 40 million, but they're not going out of business. They're solid. They had this contract with a software vendor. I won't say who the software vendor is, but it's led by Mark Benioff. And it was about the kind of aggregated spend of what that platform needs for them and all the things that, you have to buy to make it work. It's about $1 million a year.
Yeah.
And 100 million a year, that's a lot of money, but it's not, it's not the end of the world. At 40 million a year, that's a problem. And so they walk back into their software vendor, who I guarantee would say, oh, we're customer first, right? And they go, hang on, man, help us out. Right-wing governments, immigration's tough. Our business is hurting. We're going to be okay. Can we renegotiate? And they're like, oh, man, that must be really tough. It's a real shame you signed a 3-year agreement. Otherwise, we'd love to help you out. And it's like, we signed it with you. It's your agreement. You could tear it up. Do you not care about us? You loved us when we're up. Apparently, you don't give a damn when we're down. And it's such BS, right? I look at that and go, that's not living the value. You're just going to screw those guys. And what I think the thing that they don't see is there's this idea of lifetime value of a client. You look after me when I'm down, I'm going to come back when I'm up. I'll forgive you your crappy software platform that I really hate. Not that I'm talking about anyone in particular, Mark Benioff, but and I'll forgive its complexity and its sins and all the cost that comes with it because you rode with me through the valley of death. But you watch me go and say, oh, good luck, hope you don't die. Don't forget to pay your $1 million. That's not customer first.
Yeah. And we're seeing a lot of change go with other organisations like that don't treat their customers well and they change. But from a flip side to that, I have had the privilege of working with an organisation where they did make very slim margin in order to keep consistency with the customer and their ups and downs in their P&L. Are they the leading premier organisation out there? No, that's probably the reason why. But the longevity of those customers and now the size of the deals, now that we've come, into other areas that are more profitable, are a testament to the way they treat their customers. And more importantly, back to something you were saying before about customer first, is they prove that the more lines of business across their organisation that worked collaboratively together for a true customer strategy and outcome, they got a greater share of that customer's budget for their business. So rather than being a sales team with, one particular type of software or services or advisory, they, collaborated together. And for me, they are an impeccable example of what putting the customer first meant. So it's kind of to back end onto your story. There are organisations that do that.
Customer first to me is like, it's not just about, you know, let's make sure we give them the best price or anything like that. To me, it's about having the courage to go, do you know what? We're not the right partner for you for this solution. I want to help you, but actually this competitor of mine will be able to solve your problem much better than mine. The amount of times I've done that when I was a seller in my career and gone like, I'm just not the right person for you, or my brand isn't the right brand for you in this instance. Every single customer I've ever done that to still buys from me 20 years later.
Yeah,
like,
I would agree with that one.
Build, yeah, it's like, you know, if you're in sales as a professional for a career, then it's about acting with integrity every day, right? Like turn up and sell with integrity. That's what customer first means to me. It's like, just be transparent. I have this like Venn diagram in my head and going like good business looks like win-win, right? Like it needs to make sense to the customer. It needs to benefit them, but it needs to benefit my business too. If I lose, then that's not good business for me. And I don't want to do it. I don't want to walk away because at the end of the day, it's not going to be actually a win long-term for the customer. And then because we operate within this entire partner ecosystem, then it has to be good for the partner as well. And if you can't, you're in the middle there, if it's only good for two of you and one of you is losing out, then it's not good business. Like you walk away. And I think, especially with partnerships, like you got to walk away together and go like, we're in together, we're out together. And that's like the, you know, are you going to stand next to them when the chips are down, or are you going to value the $2 today rather than the $2 million later?
Yeah.
You know?
Do you think the customers are becoming more, or our customers are becoming more discerning in that? Because I think the sentiment with the hunger that's out there in the technology or even the, you know, financial industry, I feel that the customers are becoming far more discerning about how and who they put their business with in regards to what you've just said then.
I think customer, like if I was a buyer, I would have like the ick factor so bad. Like, like just this desperation. Like I can't tell you how many like reach outs I get on LinkedIn with people trying to sell me things for my small business. I'm like, I work in a French conglomerate, large 40 billion like euro business. Why are you sending emails about like my small business needs support from you? Like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
You can do better.
Cian McLaughlin, who was on the podcast a few weeks ago, who specialises in win-loss review and does a lot in B2B SaaS in particular as well. And he sort of nailed it because he's getting to go behind the scenes with everyone and interview them of like, why did you pick us? Why did you not pick us? Yeah. It's like, oh my God, I want that job, like being a detective and getting the warts and all from the customer and going in as sort of an independent third party. And he actually said now, like we're customers are fed up with those days where you sell them something and then run away. And it is that now if you can sell with, and there's more the outcome, the commitment that we're going to go on this journey together, and you can de-risk it because here's how I know you're not going to sell it and then bugger off. So there is that, you know, that real customer first. Yeah. That's where he's seeing people win. But this takes me really nicely to a conversation around sort of sales and go-to-market for 2026, because I think it's actually really challenging time now because, you know, the buyer profile is changing, the buyer journey is changing, AI, which we're going to circle back to, is coming in. I think it's actually quite an interesting time around sales and go-to-market, and you kind of feel like, oh my God, there's like 20,000 things that I need to do. So like, out of all those 20,000 things, like what do you prioritize, and what do you sort of think people should be focusing on? Like, Renee, maybe I'll start with you.
It's a great question, and it comes back to customer first. But let me put that in context, is that everybody's out there with, what is our joint value proposition? It's a term we all know, whether it be in direct sales or, direct to the customer or within the channel. And, some of those seem to be a bit vanilla. So you go into everyone's websites and not dissimilar value propositions. So I think it comes back down to that focus for 2026 has to be for the customer base. Where are you getting 20%, the focus on your client base in order to get your 80% of your revenue? Though, that old number has not changed. DAT recently published some numbers to that effect. But more importantly, are we, when we're developing our strategy and our planning cycle, where is the customer at the seat? Do we truly have their voice in the room? And then are we showing up talking about our product, our solution, our services, or our consulting capability, or are we actually listening and then coming back and bringing the right team together? And coming back to what you were saying before, saying we can't solve that, but if we actually go and work with X, Y, Z, because one of the things about customer first, two lenses, is that another statistic is that well now over 60% globally, actually up to 70% depending on which statistic you look at, decisions are being made with partners. And so a vendor needs to look at their partnership model to be able to show up and add incremental value, and I'm going to call it stickiness, to deliver that to that customer outcome. So that's point one. Point two, seems to me that targets are just getting larger and larger regardless of the economic climate. So if we continually do not a dissimilar strategy, or there seems to be a huge turnaround in sales directors or RVPs, whatever the title is the new person coming in doing something really fundamentally different, or are they coming in and putting what is the customer environment walking into 2026 So that'd be kind of the two lenses.
Like internally we have this like in our planning season, I guess, we go like, you have to come up with game changers, and like every year you have to have game changers. And in my head, I'm like, if I'm changing the game every year, when am I playing the game? Like, I just need to turn up and do the thing sometimes, do we? Like,
how about and for me, what about consistency, really, which is back to my earlier point, is why I want to challenge the idea about the strategy is what is wrong with 2025's, June, the 25th strategy that was agreed on. And in the current environment, what needs to be, tweaked, enhanced, engaged, and have we got the full suite of the players of the organisation we work for at the table, bought in, but where is the customer at the seat of the table in discussing that?
I think I was at that same event that they're throwing stats around.
Yeah.
And the one I picked up,
FOMO. Which event were you at?
Was an Adapt event. Are we allowed to talk about that?
Yes. You can. I just won't talk to you anymore, but keep talking about it, Pat. Keep talking about the event you went to.
So their research, it's kind of like weird research, because I don't know how you really get that, but their research was like, it's the sales cycle for a particular type of deal is now averages 441 days.
Yeah.
That's over a year. And you kind of, like, to your point, right? You set the strategy a year ago, you change it, but the deal you started a year ago, are we changing the game on that deal? We're not doing that deal anymore. Yeah. And we do some work with vendors as well. I met this vendor leader the other day, and like, I really love this vendor. They're like super nice, like really good guys. And I was like, oh, how long does it take you on average from the time you meet someone and they take the first meeting to the time you close your first deal? And she didn't bat an eyelid, said, it's minimum 2 years. I was like, And then I'm thinking, you just sacked 2 of your new business people in under 6 months. And like, they had a great funnel because their deals, they weren't closing any deals. I'm like, well, so what is it? Is it 2 years? Or is it like, you need it now? It's what's the strategy? What are you doing?
Yeah. And then we know what comes flying in is the, measurement cycle here. And is it, weekly, monthly, quarterly, half yearly, full year? So, I grew up in an environment that was a 4 year, and I that was great. I also worked in an advisory firm that had the full year, and that was great. I think where the difficulty is when you're actually moving into a much shorter time zone where those decisions are now getting longer, because our customers are the budgets are changed. They're looking at things and technology. They're looking at things differently in technology now, and the turn on ROI, they're not seeing the impact of that, which is why the decisions are taking longer.
I reckon there's this other idea that, like, it's that when the market, I mean, I've met all these people that are like, oh, the market's amazing and I'm killing it. Like, actually, I think most people are struggling a bit, right?
Yeah.
It's a bit slower than it was.
Yeah.
The data says buying cycle's taking longer. So that means
deals are just like taking longer to close is like the common thing.
More people, more stakeholders, all that kind of crap.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So then what happens is typically you don't get relief. So your RVP doesn't come and go, it's taking long. Don't worry, I'm going to reduce your quota 20%, right? So they just crack the whip. So the pressure flows down. And what we're saying to these salespeople is, all right, go do more. It's taking longer. So you just need a bigger pipeline, right? And the problem with that is, like, the market is growing at the rate it's growing. We've got the same number of sellers and, arguably the same number of customers. And those people are getting smashed, right? So I used to be a mid-market guy with a budget of, $10 million, and I got a few calls once in a while. Now I can't go to my phone. Some idiot leaked my number and it's ringing off the hook, and there's emails coming in and in-mails that are written by AI. I'd love to work with your small business company. I mean, we get them as well, right? For some reason, some idiot thinks I'm a buyer. And I signed up for James Henderson's Moxie thing. And it looks like it was very clever hijack, but it's like, oh, how are you going at Moxie? I was like, you idiot, haven't read anything about me. It's not a job. It's like some honorary title. But so it's flooded with stuff. And so it's super hard for a buyer to get through that noise. Yeah. Even if I wanted a conversation, let's say you wake up tomorrow, you're running a giant manufacturing company and you've decided the board says AI is the way to go. So I'll just do a quick look through those emails that I got. Who's selling AI? Like, find me someone who's not selling AI.
Yeah.
So that I reckon you've got this really challenge. The market's flooded with aggressive sellers, and they're all saying the same thing. And how do you ensure, when you talk about go-to-market, how do you ensure that when they reach out, they've thought about the individual customer and what the customer might need, and not even just what they might need, what they actually need?
Well, it's what you just nailed it before about if you just Googled, what are they doing in AI? What is the problem they're solving for?
Exactly.
So even if you are in that company, why do you want to use it? So you either learn what it is versus what is it that I'm trying to solve for. And often and we know that's been why Australia's been partly slow, plus, our government policies, but it's really determining what do we really want to each industry and company, what do we want to use it for? And how will that have a positive impact? Because I still think there is a huge, there's got to be a positive side to it, not we're reducing, headcount because it's being more efficient. There's got to be absolutely positive outcomes. And I think that's where our buyer base is at.
I probably think a little bit differently around how we need to kind of change and what we need to focus on sales. Because to me, sales is a game of influence. That's all it is, right? You've got to convince someone to give you their money for return for whatever it is that you're offering as an organization or a person or whatever it is. But you've got this buyer that's now self-educated. They're coming into the market. They're leaning into their peers and they're understanding what's, if I'm buying something, first person I'm calling is someone in my seat going like, well, what'd you learn from the last purchase when you did this thing? And was it good and was it bad? And what were your lessons? Like they're self-educating in that. They're self-educating online. They've got the same AI tools we have, by the way. So, they're getting the buyer's version of what we're trying to sell them. So, they've got all that. And there's all this static that you have to break through. They're coming into a buying cycle already knowing what they want. So sometimes I'm not even here to solve the problem. You already know what you want. My influencing has to happen way before they've got something that they're looking to buy.
Yeah.
I have to be so connected with my customer that it's an ongoing engagement, because if you're trying to pick up a new customer at the time where there's an opportunity for them to buy something in market, don't waste your time. You're coming too late. All you're going to be doing is playing a price game. And, realistically, they already know who they want to buy it from because that person's been engaged the entire time. Well, they've had a couple of people that have been engaged the entire time. So I think that, that whole thing has to change. And then when you think of that from an IT channel lens, for the partners, in order to partner with you to help them do that for their customers, we've got to stop this if I'm a salesperson or if I'm a sales leader and I'm talking to my salespeople, I know that I have to, adjust myself to them, right? But somehow when you're a vendor dealing with your channel, who's, by the way, your virtual sales force, you're like, no, they have to do what I want them to do. You follow my programs, you do the things I'm telling you to do because I'm the vendor and I'm all high and mighty. And it's no, you need to personalize to them. You need to truly understand their business and turn up and add value to them, or understand the value you can bring together with your partners. It's ride or die, as my daughter would say. We're in and we're out.
Do you think that's a different, sort of an emerging different skill set within the sales force? Because one thing you're really articulating is very much around working with the ultimate end customer about, and you said at the beginning, before they even have identified that this could be an opportunity. You're talking about how do we transform, how do we get involved in your growth or solving your problem area? And that actually is that seller's capability to actually earn a right and seat at the table to be privy to that conversation.
Even sometimes how do I prepare you for the things you don't even know that are coming to you in the future, right? I talk a lot about sustainability. And I was talking about sustainability on a stage when it was a very lonely stage and no one was talking about sustainability because I knew it was something that was coming down the road and it's something that's going to impact Australian businesses and they need to start thinking about it because now we have compliance rolling out and we can see that. But when you're running an organization, whether you're a partner and you're a small business or a medium business, whatever it is, or you're running a sales organization or you're a customer and you're worried about your day-to-day business and you're in that operational kind of mode, you don't always have the ability, the investment, the consulting to see what's coming 5 years down the road. So like us as a vendor have a responsibility to always be 5 years ahead of the market. Like what are we predicting that's coming next and how do I prepare you for that? Yeah. Because if I can prepare you as a partner, I can prepare you as an end customer, then when that comes around, I can support you with that as well. If I want to be your partner, whether you're a customer or a channel partner, I need to help you maintain your competitive edge, help you build your business. And if I can do that, I know that, you're not going to come and tell me that my competitor's $2 cheaper than me. Like, you don't care. Yeah. The margins are irrelevant at that stage, right? Like, just play the long game. And I think that's a different skill set for sure, because it's not a business development game anymore. It's I don't know, like, do you call it account management? I think it's more than that. I think it's a full consultation, long-term, long game salesperson that you need in your business. And if you see, like, I was talking to someone literally before this on the phone, they're like, I don't hire people that are like bumped around from like this job to this job to this job. And I'm like, I'm with you, because it's like, you're not showing me that you can build long-term relationships with your customers, with your peers, with your business. Like, what are you representing?
Astrid, you said before that having the ability to walk away and saying this is not the area of expertise, and that's also a good sign of a sales rep. But in what you had just alluded to before, what springs to mind in the fact in answering, are we looking for a different skill set for the type of sales rep? There's another lens to that, which is, leading into the channel and the ecosystem, is that, the sellers, how comfortable are they to be able to acknowledge and lean into their aligned advisory organisations or the system integrators or other vendors, to be able to bring those to the seat as, I'm going to use a very common term, one team, to show up in front of the customer with an ecosystem that they particularly could be managing. So for me, that's another lens to this. It's not necessarily saying current skill set is changing. It's how do they enhance being more open to teaming in the ecosystem. And I recently had a conversation with an ex-CIO of a large airport who said they literally sat down, their advisory organisation, a system integrator, the vendor, and the vendor's partner, and said, you all need to work together and stop coming in individually and calling on me, because I don't have the time to manage you all. You know my problem, get in a room and come in together as a team. And that, you can imagine the vendor rep saying, but hang on, I've got a revenue target to achieve, and the advisory, they're going to advise about something and actually elongate the deal, maybe not. So he was just said, I threw it back at them and made them behave like that. He said, because I'm time poor, I needed the solution and I need them to collaborate. So where do you see
that the definition of customer first?
Yes.
Realistically.
And that's where my weave is that that's the customer saying this is to behave. But it does make me think about the quality of a seller. Are all sellers that way inclined?
No, I don't think they are. Like, not a typical. So like what we used to chat, and that's, we were talking earlier about like, what does good look like? Like, it's changed. Yeah. Good used to look like, I'm hungry, I'm going to knock doors out. Like, I've worked in telco sales for a while, like the most dog eat dog of sales cultures I've ever been involved in. And it's like, it's every man, woman and child for themselves, 100%. And I mean, maybe it's different these days, but it was a while ago. Sorry. But it is one of those, like, you can't be that kind of seller anymore. You have to be able to work with all the teams in your organization. Even, from a vendor landscape, you've got these like partner development teams, and you have these like enterprise teams or end user sales teams. It's like, if partner is you go to market, everyone's a partner. If ultimately you sell to customers and they're the people that need to make the decision and you need to influence as well as everyone else along the chain, then everyone's an end customer person. If your product needs to be serviced and has a life cycle, needs to be managed, then everyone is a service salesperson. Like, we're stop segmenting everyone up and go like, I need a BDM for my enterprise team, and I need a channel person for like an account manager that's really good at relationships and taking people for coffee for my partner manager, and I need someone that understands, services and how to sell renewals for my service person. Like, we all have the responsibility to look after the customer's best interests and the channel's best interests, and be a bit more holistic around how we're kind of addressing our market and addressing our go-to-markets.
What's standing out to me on some of this is actually, I like this sort of conversation because it's actually like, if you are the one person who personalizes that email message, if you're the one person that looks at your job, what you actually do versus what they think that you do, if you're the one person that can actually take more of the true, what we're talking about, customer first approach or the partnership approach or so on, it's not, it's like one of my friends, Maz, who she produced the X Factor, and she's like, it's not that hard to be number one and to be 1% better than everybody else. And everything that we're talking about is actually, in essence, the basics. You look at the highest performing sellers now, they are the ones who reach out less, but they personalize every single time. And so it's almost just, that extra mile, the fundamentals is actually now what is making you stand out, which I love, because it's like you don't have to do a lot more to stand out.
Nah, the bar is low.
So I want to take us to partnerships and channel, because we've consistently touched on it. So let's go down that rabbit hole. And sort of explore that for 2026, because something that I'm interested in is I love looking at what's coming up in the year ahead, what's the trends, what's everyone's talking about. And I feel like there's this really interesting piece of like old school's becoming new school, and we're going full circle of like, good effort. Taylor Swift gets all her Swifties together in a cinema. And now it's like, how do you bring together your community in person? And there's a lot of talk around, how do you find new and unique ways to bring together your partners, not just necessarily all the traditional stuff we've done, but, can we do it in a new and fresh way? So I'm curious, you've touched on vendor partner there a lot.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, where do we go in 2026? So like, Astrid, maybe I'll start with you, and then Pat, I need to get your lens because you've changed sides of the fence, and I need to know your lens now that you've changed sides of the fence.
I think for me, I used to work for this leader, and he would, every partner conference, he always had something he'd say on stage, and was always like, partnership is the most abused word in business. And I've kind of like, I really agree with him, right? I live my life with a philosophy. I live my life with a philosophy of Ubuntu. So Ubuntu is like this, like South African. So Ubuntu is all about I am because we are, right? And that's what partnership is. Like, I can't be successful and be as great as I can be unless I help you be successful and as great as you can be. And to me, when we're working with partners, my goal is always to understand what it is that they're trying to achieve in their business. How can I help them make a really sustainable revenue engine that is connected to my product? How do I help them to build a new go-to-market, to solve a different customer problem that they couldn't solve with anyone else except for me? Because that's what's going to attach them to me for the long term, right? I don't care about the sale today. I care about like all of the sales for all of the time that you decide that I am worthy of sitting in your partner stack. And I think you can't do that with these generic programs. And my marketing team gets so annoyed at me because I like sit there and we've got like 4,000 partners across Australia and New Zealand. So you do somehow have to bucket them a little bit, but they kind of want to go like there's one persona, there's the IT channel partner. And I'm like, no, the IT channel, we've got like names for them. So I can't remember what the name is, but let's call them like Inga. Inga is schizophrenic. Like, there's so many different types of partners. There's a managed service provider that's focused on cyber. There's a managed service provider that's focused on this. There's a managed service provider that's doing these kind of managed services or those kind of managed services. And your value is different to every single one of them. And I think unless you can really kind of go, all right, these are the types of partners that really fit the value that I bring, or service the customers that recognize the value in what it is that I'm trying to do in market. So therefore, you're actually going to be able to win in those customers. Then just stop going after everything and just try and target and focus on those guys and add real value to the table. Like, it is a less is more kind of situation sometimes, rather than big vendors kind of going, I need to deal with everyone. I need everyone to sell my brand and I'm the best one ever and everyone will do whatever I tell them to do. Like, it's not how it works anymore,
And who wants it? I know with some of the programs that we do, collaboratively with vendors and partners, not everyone sees value in that. Not everyone wants it.
Yeah.
Pat, I'm curious on your take. I'm actually dying to know. I think I've been thinking about this one question for days, because you've obviously spent a lot of your career vendor side, you know, with HP and Aruba and so on, and Simplivity. And then now you've kind of gone the other side of the fence. So I'm curious where you now stand on the vendor partner conversation. Have you gone to the dark side? Where are you sitting on this conversation?
All right. So hang on. Before we start, so firstly, Astrid, hats off to you. Respect. Very few vendors talk about their partner community like that. I'm super impressed. And for me, you
get a tick from Pat.
Yeah, you go.
Yeah.
There's nothing better. You just got a tick from Pat.
I feel like you're being mean to me now.
So, well, there's three of us. We're ganging up on you.
Yeah. Sorry.
So I think a lot of people forget why they've got a partner community in the first place, right? Why did you, when you started this business, you know, and I guess, you know, well, if it's a giant vendor, probably you didn't start it. Maybe when Michael Dell started the business, why did he decide to bring partners on at some point? I worked at Dell for a really long time. There used to be Dell Direct. It was a real identity crisis when the flip happened. But if I look at the businesses I've been with, they all say the same thing, but they so rarely live that truth, right? And it's this idea, like, so that I'm the vendor, I own the product, I own the customer, you know, it's mine, right? And not yours. So I used to work for a company called Ironport. I don't know if you remember those guys. It was an awesome company, one of my favorite startups ever. They got bought by Cisco. The weird thing about Ironport customers is they were called ABCs, so anything but Cisco. And so but it's a thing, right? I'm not down on Cisco. I might be at the end of this story. But so we had all these customers that kind of bought because we weren't a big company, and then we got bought by the big company. But the partner community was very similar. So the kind of partners we had were these boutique security client customers, right? So and it was an amazing product. I really loved it. We struggled to break into federal government. We had this little boutique security provider who sold into a deep, scary, spooky part of defense. So I don't even know what they did, but I know it was hard to get in there.
What are those, like, don't ask
exactly.
questions?
It's in there. It's not going to be connected, right? So 3 years later, the maintenance comes up, and we've gone through the acquisition. They fought tooth and nail to get that client. There was no other, like, install base in there. It wasn't like Cisco and the client. There was nothing else. There was a black box. Nobody knew it was in there because we weren't allowed to know, right? And the renewal came up, and the partner manager basically fed it to one of their big partners who they did stacks of other business with. They put their finger on the scale, screwed the pricing. Little guy who did all the work to get that customer got screwed out of the deal. And you kind of look at it and go, who do you think you are? Like, who owns that customer? And I get it. You're the vendor. You make the product. You think you own it. But they built that for you. They own a book of customers. So if I look at the business we're in now, I've spent some time on the resale side, but we're independent now. I don't sell anything. So I feel like I can slag off every vendor and be okay. But we often see this kind of strange behavior. But if I look at how we go to market, I use partners a lot. And when I started a business like a year ago, and I'm like, I'm going to smash it. Everybody knows me. It's going to be so easy. And I started calling people up. They're like, who the hell are you? We don't want to deal with you. Get lost. It's very humbling, right? Yeah. And you're like, man. And I was a big swinging guy running a vendor. I'd met all these customers, but we hadn't done anything. We hadn't shared any adversity together, right? My reps, my pre-sales team, my partners had, but I hadn't. So they knew me, they'd take my call, but they didn't trust me. And it was very humbling, actually. I haven't stopped reaching out directly, but what I found was the people who did know me, the people who'd been through some hell with me, were the partners. So I reached out to the partner community and said, hey, I've started this consulting business. Can we do some work together? I'll give you some referrals, you give me some. And it just, boom, that was the magic point for us. What did they do for me? It's the same thing they do for the vendor. They got a book full of clients who already have trust. They got a master supply agreement. They're a force multiplier. You said it, right?
Yeah.
And if you can't tell the difference, and we used to say this in when we were doing our strategy, if you can't tell the difference between where my organization starts and stops and where the partner does, we're doing something right.
Yeah.
But if you can feel that fracture, it's all busted to hell.
Yeah.
Right. And so I love that for my business now. I was a believer in it when I was a vendor guy. And there's this other idea, I'm running low, this other idea that they deserve whatever margins they can get. And we worked in it was very secret when I was inside the vendor, but most of the hardware vendors, they make a pretty healthy margin, right? We make in networking, I can tell you can see from the public reports, it's a pretty bloody healthy margin, right? In a lot of cases, the average is over 50%. So I would see this often. You see a partner manager going, oh, the distie only deserves 2%, and the partner, they'll be like, if they get 6%. And I'm okay if 3 partners fight it out and they fight it out for their 6%. Maybe if they're lucky, we'll give them 12. I'm like, that's a bit rich. You're making 50 and you're giving them 12 and you're watching them screw each other for the 12. It's horrible.
I just think, like, who are you to make those decisions?
Exactly. They brought you the customer. They manage that customer. They own the risk. When they sign a contract, they're not signing it direct with you. Something goes wrong and they start calling in their liability clauses. That partner owns that. That's scary. For 12%, that's brutal. And then they might argue and say, oh, they'll get it back on the professional services. Like, if they can't make money in your product, they can make professional services on anyone's product.
Yeah.
So we would regularly audit partner margins. And once in a while, I'd come in, which is a great time of year for it. I come in like Father Christmas and go, hey, looks like you only made 3% on that deal. I'm going to cut you a new deal. We're going to put you up to 15. And I cannot tell you that, like, it makes someone's day. If you want to blow a partner manager's mind or a partner principal's mind, go fix them up in the back end. They'll love you forever. It's the best thing you can do. And what is it for a business that's making 60% margin? What does it cost me? Nothing. It's the goodwill. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think it's particularly when, like, our partners do take the risk on a lot, right? So let's say they even make a margin they're happy with on the actual sale, but in implementation something goes wrong and all of a sudden they need, more feet on the street around it, or, they've wasted more project management hours or whatever it is. Like, I don't want my partners walking away and earning 2% on my product, because if they're earning 2% on my product, I'm no different to my competitors. Yeah. But if they can earn good money and they can make a differentiation with my brand over someone else's brand, if they can then add some other services around it because they've got all this stuff in the first place, then you're a vendor that's kind of worth your salt, I think I see quite often, because reality, we're humble, we're an attached vendor. No one goes to market and go like, I'm a UPS company, not in the IT market. So then we attach to a server, we attach to a switch, we're the kind of physical infrastructure that underlays it as a brand, right? So we're always attaching. So I'm very we don't always lead the market in that way, but we can become strategic. We can become strategic because we help them make more money. We help them have an edge over their competition. We help them to access their market better, or access more wallet from their customers that they couldn't access normally or without us. Like, these are the things that you can add value to as a vendor. I think there's always this thought that, like, partners have to prove their value to us. And I'm like, it's so antiquated.
But do you think some of that comes from, like, how we develop with reps? Because I had the, let's use Pat's word, humbling experience of when I was an arrogant grad at IBM, in your early 20s, thinking you know it all, which clearly you do. And they said to all of us grads, there was a group of us, 15 of us, and they said to all of us, hey, you're going out on secondment to the channel. And of course we all went, we don't want to go. And at that time, I do think we had that, like, we're the vendor, we're IBM, we're Big Blue, we're awesome. And we got sent out to the channel. Not only did we get sent to the channel, we got told, give your badge back. You actually can't even come into the IBM building. And PS, you're going to be paid on margin. So I went to Logicalis, and literally I'm a Logicalis employee. I'm sitting in their office every single day. I'm paid on margin. And all of a sudden I'd see the NetApp rep coming in, and then I'd see the Cisco rep coming in, and I'd see all the different things they're doing. And so where we'd been like, well, we want to get that deal. We want to win that deal. Can you reduce your margin? And then I saw all these other vendors floating around. One vendor parked a Mini Cooper S in front of the building and was like, whoever gets the most of whatever it is this quarter, that is yours. And I sat there and was like, shit. And I was paid on margin. And then after that, went back to IBM, and it gave me a completely different perspective because I had walked in a partner's shoes. So is there a level of, to understand it, you're now the other side of the fence, there has to be, how do you give vendor sellers exposure to walk in somebody else's shoes?
I think it's got to start from the top. So we both work for the same organisation. So as a young grad at IBM, I had a territory, process manufacturing, had been selling direct. Woke up one day, I'm working with all the ERP vendors back then, and then got told, you're no longer selling direct, you must sell through these partners. Now, I grew up in Adelaide, so there was a handful, and I lived and breathed out at their organisations. But that wasn't me as a young woman making that decision. That was a commission plan. It was being led from the top. So, looking at the 3 organisations I've worked for is, until the client rep is feeling it in their hip pocket. You can put them out in front of a partner. You can get them to walk the halls, but you need their compensation plan to mirror and change their behaviour. That's my personal opinion.
I think sometimes the benefit of brand can open doors for people as well. Look, we work in the OT space a lot, right? And there's not a lot of kind of IT vendors that are properly working in that OT space. And there's a big disparity between IT and OT. Like I remember being at this conference and I was sitting next to this OT manager and he's like, the IT guys just know how to keep the printers on. I've got to keep people alive. And I'm like, okay. So anyway, but that kind of like gap between the two different kind of buying personas of the customer, which at the end of the day are buying networking equipment, are buying computer equipment, are buying, you know, all the physical infrastructure that underlays that, are buying software solutions, whether kind of SCADA based or IP based, they're still buying the same kind of solutions, but two very different personas. And you know, if you're going to add value to them, you have to understand their world, right? So how do you sell to them? How do you sell to them? How do you add value to them as a partner and add value there? And it's like you got to kind of chameleon yourself and go, okay, this is what good looks like in this space. This is what good looks like in that space. And it's not being disingenuous and kind of like you got to sit within your skill sets and that kind of thing, offer what you can offer. But, you know, I think that like chameleon skill set's really important as well.
Agree.
I feel like we came right back to the start, right?
Yeah.
It's like lead from the front, model the right behavior. If your leader does that, you're a little more likely to copy it, right?
Absolutely.
And if you show there's value in this, and it's the opposite is also true.
Yeah.
You screw the partners and you'll see that that's okay. And we'll copy
we
it.
all have, you know, I'm going to call it the elephant memory. I'm not going to name the organisation, but I've worked for 3, so, you know, it's one of 3. But, you know, you will come across somebody that has said, you know, I did, you know, work with X, Y, Z, and they treated me like this. You know, I walked into one organisation that said I'd never deal with the organisation that I'd actually come from. And I said, in other words, you're putting me, I work for that, so you're telling me you don't like me. No. X, Y, Z. And I said, well, that individual is no longer at that organisation. This is how we operate. So it's either behavioural and cultural, or it comes down to individual. And therefore, as a leader, I agree, we've got to model what good looks like when it comes to partnering.
A lot of what we've talked about as well seems to be coming back to personalization. So like whether you're talking about, you know, as a seller, I'm not spamming Pat with an in-mail that's generic, or Astrid talking about what different partners actually value. And I think that brings us really nicely back to our AI conversation, because we talked at the start about what bad AI and what lazy AI looks like.
Yeah.
We know, and we've all just kind of, you know, in various ways hinted back to 2026 is about personalization. Obviously, there's that interesting situation because AI is here. And it's also, we've said what bad AI looks like, but what does good AI look like? And I'm kind of going to throw to Astrid first, because I think that out of all the people I know, I would say you're probably one of the people, ironically, with your point at the start, who actually does champion good AI.
Yeah. It's funny because like all my friends always know me as like, there's an app for that. Like that's
yeah.
They'll give me a problem. I'll be like, there's an app for that. Let me show you.
Yeah.
My first ever meeting with Astrid, I think I like literally had a pen and paper, and she's like, oh, like we can just co-pilot that. I'm like, I know, but I need to write it down as well. Like, yes, I use co-pilot, but I also want to write it down.
I think it's you have to stop going for the AI easy wins, right? Like that's not what AI is good at. AI is good at the predictables. And if you're going to use AI, use it to look after predictables, because that frees you up to manage the unpredictable, to manage the relationships, to manage the partnerships, to manage the complexity and understand the nuances in conversations and make the connections. Like you can't have AI do that bit. So let AI free up your bandwidth so you can do more of that, and you can obsess over that and start to kind of look at that. And I think that's what kind of making sure you're applying it at the right part of your business is really important, right? It's like we have to be able to lead at that higher level. And the only way you're going to be able to lead at that higher level is if you take all that kind of stuff that is noise and that kind of thing away. I think something for me, though, is when you are doing those emails and you're doing that like ping pong email, it's static. Like there's so much noise. And if you want to be really good at AI, using AI, use it to do the research. Use it to give you the insights that can help you to break through the static, to actually have a connection, to go and have a conversation with your customer that is meaningful and will, you know, help them really want to work with you and go, actually, you can help me solve this better than I thought I could solve it myself, because I'd done all this research and I thought I knew what I want, but now you're kind of helping me maybe even find a better solution. That's how you sell.
Pat, thoughts on AI?
I mean, our advisory business is telling people how to use it, so we better know how to use it ourselves. I reckon I see a lot. Everyone's like embarrassed to admit that they rely heavily on it. It's like don't want to say, "Oh, that was AI written," and I actually think, like, get over it. It's okay. Like if you think about like what the big consultancy practices have been doing forever, and it's kind of what we all used to do when you write out. So someone writes an awesome RFP response, and you stick it in the library, and everyone's cutting and pasting that executive summary, and you don't take it whole. I mean, the bad ones just take it wholesale and they change Dear Bob to Dear Steve or Dear Jane or whatever. But the good ones take the good bits out of it and they reuse it. I mean, that's kind of AI, right? It's just, instead of me having to read your boring or your awesome exec summary, the AI's read it for me. And the good people know how to pass that, turn it into something valuable, and off it goes. And I think when it's used as a force multiplier, it's awesome. When it's used as a replacement for you thinking, you're in trouble, man.
Yeah.
And it's,
augment yourself. Don't replace yourself.
I saw this really cool, hilarious video the other day, which I know we shouldn't be talking about YouTube videos, but it was taking the mickey out of salespeople. So a guy walks into the 7-Eleven and he's like, I've just walked into the 7-Eleven. The attendant's greeted me. What should I say? And the AI's like, you should say, hello, I'd like to buy. And it's like, then the attendant does the same thing. A man has just asked me what to buy. And it's funny, but I do see a danger for people just stopping thinking at all. I think we should acknowledge when we use it. We should be proud of it. We write reports and scopes heavily relying on AI, but it doesn't create the content. So I will write a really structured what our review was, what our decisions are, and it'll pad it out for me. And I'll go through and go, no, absolutely not. But I can produce, we just did one the other day. God, I hope my customer doesn't watch that. But the 128-page report, and I could do it in a week, whereas it would have taken me a month otherwise.
Yeah.
And I could do it in 10 seconds with AI, but the week is smashing out all the AI nonsense, making sure it's actually threading through the recommendations that I want. And occasionally we'll put a paragraph in going, I didn't even look at this. That's just AI. Yeah. But that's okay. I think we just got to acknowledge it. We're all using it. And I saw that same research we saw the other day. They're like, people are saying they don't use it. It's so bedded into everything. Yeah, everybody's using it. Any organization that says they're not, they just mean they're not building their own private model. But I think you'd struggle to find someone, even if they don't realize how much they're using it, it's everywhere, man.
Yeah. A random example of that. Yeah. Walked this morning with a friend of mine. Her dog has a new follower, and it's a bush turkey. And then she showed me the ChatGPT conversation she's been having. And because she'd done research, is this normal? What's going on? It was hilarious. ChatGPT actually said, well, it's actually hers, absolutely invested in this relationship between Trevor, and they've called the bird, Trevor's her dog, but what was going on and the attachment and the territory. But this bush turkey now follows her dog home. It's a thing. So I
thought you meant follows the dog on Instagram.
No, I actually said she needs to create an Instagram profile. Yes. And, I actually said she needs to put Taylor Swift Love Story on that just as a side thing. But I said I was laughing because when she showed me what was the conversation going on, and I was sitting here listening to you, thinking about this, because my commentary around just sort of AI is, isn't it wonderful that global is coming local? Yeah. And that really fundamentally is the basis. And yes, there's 1,000 other amazing things that's going on where it comes into robotics and how it's going to change fundamental activities in our lives. But quite quickly, Sarah was able to get some insights onto what was happening with why a bush turkey is now following her dog home. And was it going to attack it? No, it's not. It's an attachment style and it will follow her and it's actually they're in a safe environment. Plus, it was a great laugh. But a year ago, there's no way we would have ever had that conversation. And look what we've been able to glean. And now I will let you know the website on Instagram of Trev, this beautiful dog, and his relationship with the bush turkey. But that for me is, thousands and thousands of, data, pieces of information that's coming together in an instant that we get, laugh and joy. But imagine that impact in the medical industry. And that for me, and I keep coming about customer and outcome, that's where ultimately, I agree with you, Pat, is that everyone is using it, but it's not going to replace the skill set that we've all got as individuals to personalize and utilize that information to have a face-to-face impact on our profession.
Do you know something that I find a little bit scary about AI? And I do love it, like I do, but I find it scary the way people interact with it sometimes, right? Like it is like
it's a human.
Some computer, well, yeah, like my daughter told me I wasn't being polite to the AI. And I'm like, why do I need to be polite? So one day it might come back and get you. But like people will listen to any AI like it's verbatim. I had this young seller. I mean, God love him because he got us a sale from it. But he was quoting to his customer, and they were looking at us and a competitive product, right? And they couldn't really decide and that kind of stuff. So he went to, I don't know, whatever AI he was using and said, give me or let me know which, brand is better of UPS for this customer. This is their situation, rah, rah, rah. And then he screenshot that. He sent it to his customer. His customer used that as if it was a consultant third party. I went, okay, let's go buy APC. And I'm like, oh, thanks for backing my brand.
Me. That's my business out of business right there.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like we will just take it as verbatim. There was a if you look it up and Google it, there was like a famous case where they're like, there was an AI that got turned off in 24 hours because it got fed with so much. Well, I wasn't going to say Van's, but it was fed with so much, like misinformation.
Yeah, we've said turn Nazi overnight.
Biasized, and you have to turn it off, right? Like you have to look at the responsibility of how we use it and what we listen to it for, and what we're doing with that. So if you're just replacing your thought processes with whatever AI says, it's a super irresponsible place to be. Other than don't let me get started on the sustainability side of that, but it's really irresponsible.
Isn't that good for your business?
Hey,
all that power.
It's not a good thing. I help people save power.
I got asked the other day.
Use it responsibly.
About to make a comment. I was thinking about it, and it's this idea that I think the reason it's so exciting is because it's so freaking dangerous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It absolutely is powerful and capable, and it's not hard to imagine all the horrible things, right? But when I was a little kid, and maybe it's a very young boy experience, but we used to make our own homemade explosives and blow stuff up. And why
I don't even know if that's a boy thing. I think that's a Pat thing.
There you go. Anyway, but why? Because it was like scary and dangerous, and I feel like we've got these toys now, and they're a bit like that. We've got something that's almost too much for us. You know what I mean?
Which is why we need the social responsibility and the government regulation, and then coming back to what you were saying before about that trust is. Underlying all of that is the, unconscious bias of, ultimately it's somebody putting that information in. So depending on their, their source and their opinion. So we've got to cross-check what's coming out. I agree.
I was talking to my son last night. He was like, he's, super into biology randomly. Anyway, he got to the end of the year and he's like, I really like this subject. Anyway, it was a very random conversation. He was talking to me about humans are the smartest animal, right? And he's like, yeah, but we're too smart. And I was like, what do you mean we're too smart? He's like, we're too smart for our own good. Like the octopus is like the perfect balance of smart enough, but will never self-destruct. We're like so smart. We don't think about the consequence. We will self-destruct ourselves because we're not thinking. We're just like, how do we go faster? How do we go? It's that kind of.
I dig that. That's what we need to be more.
Be like an octopus.
I'm going to go on the positive though.
Okay,
I feel like I'm team positive. With my halo of sun that's coming behind.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah, must be sitting next to you, Pat. I'm becoming positive and all the rest of it. But what I like is, for example, we've talked personalization seems to be a theme of the conversation. I think now with AI, it's actually unforgivable to do the example you had of send you a generic email or a shit generic email, because with AI, when I started at IBM and you go through sales school like Harry Potter's Hogwarts for salespeople, you get taught how to research, how to personalize, how to sort of go that extra mile, which is a fantastic process. And I value it. Thank you, IBM, for all those years ago. But now that would take me hours. Now you can do that in 30 seconds. So again, coming back to the A player, it's not that hard to stand out. It's not that hard to go the extra mile. And with AI on the good, that research that we could always say, I didn't have time to go to that depths, you can do in 30 seconds. And my second one is we actually just took out a week's worth of tasks in our business through the podcast. I cracked it and was like, right, this process is like drowning our business. It's putting massive amount of pressure on my team. We're all burning out a little bit. We all are in this busyness epidemic. And we looked at, right, there's 13 steps in the process. How do we use AI for the steps? And whilst I would say it probably does 75% of it, we still then have the human, the thinking to go, right, out of the 3 titles that it suggested, if I blend this with that, or out of the 20 snippets it suggested that we use in the snippet, actually, I really like these 5. Okay, out the timestamps, I really like that. And that's taken 1 day a week out of our business. It hasn't meant that, all we're doing is just focusing our time more wisely. We're still thinking, but we're using that to shortcut the process. So I also think there's some good.
So that's the like get AI to do the predictable, so you could do the unpredictable. Yeah, because you can't get AI to sit down and have this conversation, but you can get it to start to cut your podcast a little bit more and that kind of thing. Yeah. You can get that kind of predictableness. Kind of going in it.
Absolute fave use case. I hate the ones that, we had 100 people, we got AI, now we killed them all, right? It's the ones where, like, we did one with this.
Who are you working with?
Well, maybe it does feel like there's sort of an evil supervillain in a data center somewhere, right? But we did one with this engineering company, right? So they are the people who come out and inspect your building before you get insurance. Yeah. And to do it well, you've got to be old. You've got to seen everything. I got to know that crack is like a normal crack, and that crack's like, oh my God, the building's going to fall down kind of crack. So their workforce is almost exclusively like sort of 60 to 70-year-old dudes who are ex-tradies, and they're just not techo guys, right? Yeah. So they come out with their old phone, or even worse, like an old film camera, and they take a photo of the crack and they write down their notes. And they go away, and it takes them weeks to produce this report, and you give it to the insurance company, and they say, yes, we can insure it, or no, we can't. You got to do remediation, right? So they've got this small workforce, and they were just butting heads as to how they could grow. You AI the process. It takes all your old reports. It learns how you talk, what's what, and doesn't replace you. But instead of you visiting one client in 6 weeks, now I can visit a client a day, and all my reports are pre-written. I still go through it, but it's written in my voice, my language. It's making a guess on the crack based on my old time, and I can go, no, that's stupid. Right. This is a structural thing. Yeah. But so suddenly they go from a client saying, hey, can we get our thing back? And it's high value work, charge the same amount, but it's a couple of days. I love those use cases, right? They're the ones. If we could just all talk about that instead of Amazon sacking 500 people or whatever.
And saying AI's, cause it in the back end, it's about how do we use it for, productivity and efficiency and from a profitable perspective, which is what you're alluding to.
And even medical ones, my other half, I'll get in trouble for telling this story, but never mind. My other half had a mole that looked a little bit dodgy. God bless him in IT, he goes and cracks out an app that like scans your mole and tells you, and then it's like 95% chance of cancer. And I'm like, oh, that's a great thing to do on a Saturday. Thank you for that.
Please tell me you didn't get an Apple Core.
I'm going to get in so much shit for this story. But he then went to the doctors and then went through the process, and it helped identify. So I think some of the medical use cases.
Here's a below. I have my best friend when she's her mum was a doctor, right? So she didn't know the background to her family history. She sent away and did one of those DNA tests. So, she's kind of taken her blood or her hair or whatever it was and sent it off and come back, and she found out that she was this particular type of Jewish heritage, and she never knew that because she was, from this kind of adopted line in her family. And when she was kind of researching them, they had a really high rate of breast cancer. And so she, under 40, she got a mammogram, found out that she did in fact have breast cancer, and was able to treat it really early. And I mean, she's like the most amazing person because she was the entire time just going, I'll worry about it if it becomes the thing that I have to worry about. It's all fine. Like she was just, in a in her stride, just, you know, taking it on and going through all these like massive life-changing kind of things that she was going through. But, you know, without the technology, without the AI that helped that organization do that, you know, who knows where she'd be, because she was a few years before getting to the stage when, you know, we have compulsory kind of mammograms in life and that kind of stuff. So many benefits for medical. I think they've developed this, I don't know why they only use it, I think, in the NRL because it's commercialized, but they've developed this thing that can look at your pupils and tell if you have a concussion straight away, right? So if you're an NRL player and you get a head knock, and you go behind the scenes, they do the scan and you can come back out, right? Which is awesome. That same device can tell you if you have early onset Alzheimer's. Wow. We don't use it in that way because, you know, we can't make money out of it that way. But there's a device that can do that. And it's like, should be in every doctor's surgery, anywhere, every pharmacy you should have, and like walk through and like, I want to know if that's a thing for me, because
I forget a lot of things pharmacy, it's like, what? Sorry. Bad news for you.
Yeah. So I feel like we've covered so much ground. I mean, we've honestly gone through what the conversations we want to put on the table. We've gone through redefining the A player and not being the lone wolf. We've gone through personalization. We've gone through what customer first actually means versus what it doesn't. We've talked about vendor partner dynamics and relationships. We've talked about the bad versus the good of AI. We've covered so much ground. So challenge for all of us. This probably is people, all four of us who like to talk. One thing to start, one thing to stop for 2026 for revenue leaders. Renee, I'm going to come to you first. A start and a stop.
Start. Have I unlocked the full potential of my team as individuals and absolutely enhance their strengths, you know, out in the in front of their customers? So start from the, you know, investment in the individual. Stop emailing, stop SMSing, go get the pheromone, go look somebody in the face, go have the conversation in person.
Love that.
Get the pheromone. New tagline.
Astrid.
I think, can I swear?
Yes, I think we all did a long time ago. Maybe it was Pat. Let's just blame him.
Okay, blame Pat. I'm going to swear. All right, start daring to give two fucks. Like, care about your customers, care about your partners, and care about how you're turning up in market and what you're doing. You need to get to this place where we are asking much more questions, whatever English that is. Copilot would have got me there. Ask more, listen more, and, you know, learn how you can actually be of service to someone. Sales is a service industry, so turn up and do it. And I think stop outsourcing your courage. You cannot hide behind professionalism and not turn up and have the hard conversations. We're talking at the start about, you know, do we hire the A player? No, we don't, because we don't want that lone wolf, but we need to start developing people. You're not going to develop people unless you're willing to have some hard conversations and give some really confronting, in-the-face news to them to go, hey, this is what you need to develop, this is where you need to grow, and this is how you need to start turning up. If you can't have that conversation, you have no business calling yourself a leader.
Boom.
I feel like that's a mic drop. I really got goosebumps from that. I'm like, oh, Pat.
Can I just stop first?
Sure, you can do what you like. I don't think I have an ability to stop you. See what I did there?
So my one's really simple. I like stop being a whiny little bitch, basically. I meet so many people who are just like, nothing's working, everything sucks, the company process is crap, and I like doing my expenses, everybody's mean to me, whatever, right? But and it's like this idea that if you're a victim, bad shit's coming your way. And you know, and I'm not saying your boss isn't bullying you, I'm not saying the process doesn't suck, I'm not saying your customer's not mean, I'm not saying any of those things. But the perspective is everything. Start just being a force for positive energy in the world. I was at an event the other day. Some random partner came up to me and was like, Pat, oh my God, I've got to do some work with your organization. I was like, oh, really? Why? And there was, I don't know if you guys know Vic Guerrero Vic's a huge personality and huge dude anyway. And Vic had just met this guy and said, oh, you got to work with Pat. He's getting nothing from that. But his philosophy in life is just, and you said it, he stole my line. He's like, be of service.
Yeah.
Be of service. Think about, what can I do for you? how can I lighten up your life? How can I be a force for positive energy in the room? And all the other good shit will happen. And it's so funny because I look at it and I go, if you're an awesome person at delivering a thing, but you're whiny and miserable and you're just fucking awful to be around, you're going to lose your job. Yeah. You know, and you'll be like, what the hell? I'm the only one who's any good at this company and everyone else sucks. So I can't believe they're going to get rid of me. But if you're awesome, if you're great fun, you're positive energy, and I want you to succeed. I'm genuinely interested in what's going on with you. I want to help you. You looking for a new job? I'm going to help you find a new job. Not because it's good for me, because it's good for you. It's good for us. It's good for people. Yeah. I'm going to get promoted even though I'm a useless idiot, because everybody wants to be in the room with me. And it's funny. We're talking about like sales culture and what works. Sometimes I think being a slick person and knowing all your stuff is all good, but sometimes just being happy, just be jazzed about being there, like have a good time. It's so infectious, right? So stop being a whiny little bitch. Stop bitching about where you are. You've got an amazing thing. You're in an amazing part of the world. We live in the best country in the world, I reckon. It's the best time to be alive. Cool stuff is happening. And you know, the industry's changing around us. We're at the forefront of all this cool stuff. Enjoy it, man. It's awesome. And what you'll find is everybody wants to come along for the journey. That's my thing.
I love that. I have to share quickly on a war story because I've got to throw Pat under the bus on this. We did a sales kickoff together, and my brief from Pat was, Abbie, I want there to be so much energy in the room that people just like, they almost want the coffee break and want to get out because I'm going to do this and you're going to do that. And there's going to be so much energy and people are going to be like, let me out. So you, do you know what I think it is for me? And I'm so grateful to all three of you for coming on. I think you walk the talk and you practice what you preach. When you talk about being happy and positive, I've been stuck in that room with you. You know, Astrid, we've worked together on projects, and Renee, we worked together a long time ago at IBM. I think all of you really walk this talk, and I think that's what's been so valuable about this conversation. You're not just talking a good game on a podcast. I've worked with all three of you, and I can actually, you know, I've seen it in action. So thank you so much for coming on and being on the podcast today.
Thanks for.
Before you leave us, a really quick shout out that we have just announced all the details of our 2026 REV UP program. REV UP is the professional development pathway for B2B sales, go-to-market and partner ecosystems, where we have fine-tuned every single detail designed to optimize your growth. You'll learn from 10 world-class experts in a 12-month live and interactive cohort-based program. Not only that, we have got AI personalized learning, and we will ensure that your sales and go-to-market teams develop all of the critical skills that they need to win and be successful in 2026. Check out the details via the link in the show notes. If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe and follow so that you get our unfiltered conversations every single week.